Hi, I'm Mary Beth Quinn, a mixed media collage artist, and today I thought I would do an experiment to see how this medical exam paper right here, that just comes on a roll, takes the very same pigment that a piece of tissue paper does. So I'm going to do several samples side by side so we can compare and see how they take the pigment, how strong the color is. Do you get any of the same markings? Do they even look different? So let's find out. So what I'm going to use is this NovaColor. I will use a bit of quinacridone purple, the blue-green, and also the Indian yellow, and mix some different colors. But I will make sure that whatever color I'm using on the exam paper, I'm using the exact same color, same mixing batch, everything for the tissue. But let's just start with this Indian yellow. Ooh, it's a good bit right there. I'm gonna get my big old brush wet and just put a dab of this paint in here. So this is the Indian yellow, and I'm gonna add a lot of water to it so I have plenty to cover both of these papers. And because this is a big brush, it's gonna soak up a lot of that color. So I wanna make sure that I have enough. All right, so let's give it a try. This is the tissue. That's some beautiful bright color. And the exam paper. Okay, so here's my piece of tissue. Put it here. Now it's going to soak up some of that yellow paint, but there's yellow paint over here as well, so they'll both get to soak up that same color. Well, I'll tell you right now, I got these NovaColors for Christmas, and I haven't had much of a chance to really use them. And so far, I'm loving the pigment in these paints. Loving them. I am purposely drying these papers so they're going to drip on one another as they dry, because I really want to see how they take marks differently, what they do as far as just those happy accidents. Now we're going to let those dry, and I will show you the results so we can compare. Alrighty, so all of these papers are dry, and let's take a look at them and see if we can see some differences. So this is the exam paper, and then this is the tissue paper. They look very similar. They seem to have captured the same amount of pigment. I'm liking that the exam paper seems to catch a lot of the movement of the pigment like the tissue paper does. As you can see on both of these, some yellow got dripped here from above. These marks were from where I just draped it over the hanging rack, and it made some marks here in the tissue. It seemed to get a little bit more distinct on this one, but who knows why that is. They seem to both show a lot of the neat patterning that can happen as the pigment's drying. Okay, once again, this is the exam paper. Now I used this NovaColor paint, and it's really pigmented, which is great. And so it made these really luscious and strong papers. This paper sort of folded over on itself and made some really cool patterns and marks. And this one did as well. All the wrinkles and where it was draped over. I'm very pleased with how patterned this exam paper is in comparison to the tissue. It's very nice. Here we go, exam paper, tissue. This got dripped on from above by probably this. So as you can see, it has some really nice patterns in it. And I'm very, very happy. They're really both have a lot of character to them. And as you can see where that folded over, it made a really beautiful pattern. And this made a beautiful pattern too, I guess from where it was draped over. Yeah, where it was draped on the hanging rack. So it caught all of that movement of the pigment and really locked it in place. And that is wonderful. It seemed to be pretty absorbent too, which is really nice. This one has a nice mixture of a little bit of green and a little bit of purple too. So that got very vivid. That's the one biggest difference that I can see, is just how they capture the dripping pigment a little bit different. This seems to, maybe it's a little bit more absorbent, so it drains all the way to the edge, but it does make some pretty patterning. So I'm very pleased with that. And now what I'm going to do very quickly, just so we can see how they perform differently, maybe in the transparency, is I'm going to do a little bit of gluing these into my sketchbook so we can A and B them. So far, it looks like they are extremely similar in how transparent they are, the color, how they hold their color. And so now what I'm going to do is just make a line here so we can see how this shows up with something going over it. So on this one, I'm just going to not only compare the actual purple paper, but I'm going to put on a piece of yellow medical exam paper and then yellow tissue, so we can see how it layers over the other paper. So as you can see, that both of them layered over other paper really nicely, showed the color through really nicely. This may be a little bit more vivid. It's hard to tell, but both of them did really, really well. So to me and to my eye, the tissue paper and the medical exam paper behaves very similarly and performs really well and predictably like each other. But as we know, this medical exam paper comes on a roll. There's a lot of it. It's very economical, and it is just easier to store and to get. Everything about it seems a little easier than tissue, and I like the way it tears. I like knowing what I'm going to get each time. And that's not always the case with tissue. So I hope that this is helpful and illuminating. But I tell you, I'm really happy with all the papers. I'm happy with how they soak up color, with how they showed patterning. They're very, very similar. And I was really happy with this NovaColor. I feel like that is a great thing to pigment with. It took very little of the paint to actually pigment. I hope you enjoy working with that medical exam paper and just seeing what you think about it. I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Tinting and painting on these semi-transparent collage papers has become just one of my favorite things I've ever done. And if you would like to learn more about this process, I would love for you to join me in the Laird Botanical. Early bird pricing is going to end very soon. May 1st is the last day. So if you're interested, you can get in on that, or you can begin with my intro class, Painting with Paper. Those links will be in the description below. And as always, I so love being with you and really appreciate that you're spending your valuable time with me. Happy painting.